This was a custom build that we put together, I think around 2016, 2017, can't really remember. But at the time, we made quite a modest build out of it. So here's the old wheel. It's a Shimano XT hub built onto a Mavic rim. And here are the old forks, a fairly base spec RockShox SID, 32mm stanchions. But the owner of this bike has decided to go for a pretty sexy upgrade. See, they were going to treat themselves to a new gravel bike, but in that whole process, they really realised that they love riding a really sporty hardtail and decided to spend that money instead on making this an absolute dream ride. So laid out on the table here, we've got a whole load of stuff from Fox and Chris King, Shimano XTR, you name it, all the big sexy brands. But this video is not necessarily about the components, but the murky world of compatibility and standards and stuff like that. So I think there's an awful lot to learn from this video. And we're going to try and deep dive into all the options and stuff you have to go through to upgrade your own bike. One of the key tasks was that this customer absolutely dreamt of having the full range of Chris King matte mango throughout the entire bike. But you can only get this fantastic matte mango color in certain components. So we had to do a little bit of compatibility switching out. So first of all, the new fork that we're having, most modern mountain bike forks now have what they call a boost axle, which means that the axle is now 110mm. Whereas this old bike was an old standard, which is 100mm. We needed to go to the Chris King mountain bike range for 110mm with a 15mm axle. Now, this comes with a 6-bolt configuration for the disc rotor. However, they don't make this same thing for the rear hub. So the rear hubs, all the Chris King mountain bike stuff, all comes with the new standard of 148mm. But this frame is 142mm, which is now the accepted standard for road and gravel. So we've had to go to the road and gravel range from Chris King to get the hub, which means that we now have the Shimano Centerlock disc mount system. You'd normally buy these with either the Shimano Hyperglide freehub body or the SRAM XDR for road freehub body. But what we wanted was the mountain bike standard, which is the Shimano micro spline. So what we had to do is to buy another axle kit, swap all that out. So we now have 142 by 12 with a micro spline with center locks, which means that we do have a little bit of inconsistency here, which is probably going to throw some of you with OCD a bit mental, the fact that we have a 6-bolt on the front and a center lock on the back, but at least they are both matte mango and compatible. The rims we've gone for are the Crank Brothers Synthesis carbon rims. Now, the interesting thing about these rims is that they are front and rear specific. The idea is that the rear rim has a higher spoke count, 32 holes, and it's also slightly narrower as well. So you get a slightly different profile on the tire. But the rear wheel is the one that really takes the big hits, the one that you want to be stiff, to accelerate, and want to be strong. The front rim is therefore a little bit wider to blow that tyre profile out and give you a bit more grip, and a lower spoke count to give a little bit more compliance on the front wheel. So this mixture, Crank Brothers believe, gives you an ideal combination of acceleration and toughness in the rear wheel, but compliance and grip with the front wheel. Now, we're going to be building these onto Sapin CX-ray spokes with brass nipples. Brass nipples really does help with corrosion, especially where we live here in the Lake District. Little bit heavier, but I don't think that is going to matter. Of course, we're going to finish them up with some matching Chris King tubeless valves as well, because that's what it's all about, right? With the synthesis rims, you get a fantastic guidebook, if you will, for helping you build them. It just gives you their recommended specs. So in here, it gives you the ERD, which is 601mm. We've already used that to calculate our spoke lengths. Tells you whether it prefers the Sapin CX Ray or the CX Sprint, depending on which rim you're going for, depending on the downhill model or the cross-country model, and also whether to use brass or aluminium nipples. Now, they all specify 14mm because the actual rim depth is actually quite thick. But we're actually going to ignore this ever so slightly, and rather than go for the alloy ones, we're going to go for the brass one. It also gives you a whole load of specs to build to as well. So in the front wheel, we're looking for 110 kilograms of force, and on the rear wheel, we're looking for 120 with a 7.5 kilograms of force difference for the other side. It's also saying that lateral and radial trueness needs to be plus or minus 0.15mm. So that's pretty standard for wheel building stuff. Interestingly, it's saying the dish only needs to be plus or minus 0.25. I think we can probably do better than that. So great that we've got all that information in here and that actually give you proper specifications. Not all rim manufacturers actually do that. So nice one, Crank Brothers. Let's get started. So what I'm going to do first is locate the valve hole, and then I'm going to take a closer look at all of the spoke holes here. And if you look very, very carefully at the rim, you'll notice that not all those holes are drilled perfectly in the center. They're offset from the center line ever so slightly. Every one is offset from the other. So if you look at it down the center here, you'll see this hole here is biased towards this side. This hole here is biased towards this. And these particular rims are also drilled on the bias as well, so it allows for the angle of the spoke coming down to the flange of the hub. So what I'm going to do first is just make sure this is all laid out so I'm aware of which side I'm working on. And I always like to start with the drive side. Thanks to Spokes from Ryan, that's where we order our spokes from with his fantastic virtually next day service. There's really no need for us to stock a big range of spokes because those guys provide such a great service. First thing we want to do is find the logo, because it's always cool to line the logo up with the valve hole to get that awesome Instagram shot looking through, and then identify what we call the leading spoke. So you can imagine that as you pedal, this is going to be pulling this around, and you want one of your spokes is going to be transferring that pulling action over to the rim and actually transferring that into forward motion. The other spoke will be under compression. So first thing I like to do is get the one that's going to be under tension set up. So we find our center line and then take our spoke to here, which means you can see this one is going to be the pulling spoke and it'll have the support of the flange, whereas the spoke with the head facing out, this won't have the support of the flange, so it's not as rigid. So what you want is the spoke that's going to be under tension to have the support of the flange. The one that's going to be under compression can be on the inside. So get these two sorted first. Check that all lines up. And then it's really just a matter of counting your way around and gradually lacing your wheel together. I mean, there are millions and millions of tutorials on YouTube of how you can do this. Now, I know there's a few absolute pro wheel builders out there cringing at what I'm doing right now because I'm doing this on a camera, obviously, but you can get like some fantastic wheel truing jigs which hold all this still for you. And also I know some people that are very talented that can put all the spokes in one go and then lace them. I don't know, this is the way I do it and I don't think it's any quicker for me. I just like lacing them up this way. When you're doing it though, just keep an eye and just make sure you keep your thumb over the end, because the last thing you want is for this sort of sharp edge where the spoke's been cut in to like scratch the rim. So it's just really good practice to keep a thumb over the end just to prevent any sort of cosmetic damage as you're going. And then it's just a case of going back the other way, and as we do these ones, we just need to make sure that we interlace with the others so that they cross over. When you come to doing the disc side, you still need to pay attention to that spoke that's going to be under compression, the one that's going to be under tension. But remember that the braking force is now going to be in this direction. So you want the spoke that's going to be under tension to be going in this direction here. So let me show you what that means. You can imagine that if you're cycling this way, this will be under tension, but as you brake, it's going to be pulling this way. So this is the spoke here that's going to be pulled if I'm rotating this direction. And this one that's going to be under tension has the support of the flange. That's what we mean by our leading and trailing spokes. Exactly the same thing on the non-drive side. Once you've got this set up, you can lace your whole wheel around it. Right, so when you're building a wheel like this, we've got to the point now where we're starting to get all of the 4 dimensions in line. And those 4 dimensions really are the dish, i.e. the center line of the rim needs to be in line with the center line of the hub. That's the first thing to worry about and quite easy to get right. The second one is what they call the radial true, so how egg-shaped it is. So we're looking at the gap down here and seeing the edge of the rim. And then the lateral true, sort of the left and the right. And you remember from that booklet, they all need to be within plus or minus 1.75 millimeters, so quite a fine tolerance. And then lastly, of course, is actually the spoke tension. So one, we need to make sure the spokes are on average up to that 120 kilograms of force, but also we want to make sure that all of these spokes are sharing that load equally. It'd be very easy for one spoke, let's say this one is doing 125 kilograms of force, where the ones on the side here maybe just do it 115. So we can go through the process of just taking some tension off this little one that's under a bit of stress and helping these two take some of that stress, but still doing that in respect of the lateral, radial, and the dishing as well. So it's just a case of looking for the biggest problem first, working it down. I like to get to about this stage here where things are about right, mount a tyre and then do that final tension with the tyre on and fully inflated, because you'll get a little compression effect. And for me, just doing the final tensioning work with the tyre in place, it seems like a much safer thing to do, because especially with carbon rings, you do get a fair bit of compression. So with this in mind, I think we need to go and get some rim tape on, mount a tyre, finish this off. Looking good so far. It's time to do the headset and fit the forks. These are the old ones. this kind of gets interesting. Now, bit of background for you. Now, when this was first new, this was actually fitted with a 0 stack headset. So that means that the bearings aren't pressed directly into the frame, that actually aluminium cup is pressed into the frame with just a small bit of aluminium showing, and then the bearings go inside that. So they're still internal to the frame, but it's like an aluminium carrier. But during COVID, we had a real problem getting hold of one of these for the customer. So we had to fit an external one, which means that you get like a band of aluminium here and the bearing sits external on the bottom. Now, the difference between that is that that's how the fork would look with the internal, nice, smooth, integrated, looks lovely, and maintains the 70.5 degree head angle that we wanted. However, we fitted this external one, which you can imagine makes the forks a little bit longer. Now, we fitted them as like a temporary, see how you get on, this is the best we can do at the moment. Report came back, said, actually, love it, because what it does, it slackens the head angle ever so slightly and also raises the bottom bracket. So when we got these new forks, which are a little bit longer again, we have another dilemma, which was, do we revert back to the 0 stack, or do we keep with the external and then slacken the head angle again? Tricky decision. Let me show you what that means in reality. Here is what I mean. Imagine that the rear axle is the pivot and we're essentially doing this. About here maintains the original 70 degree. We came up ever so slightly to about here, and now we got up ever so slightly again. So you can see what happens is your saddle goes slightly further back as well. So to compensate, we might have to slide the saddle further forward, and we might need to either lengthen the stem or lower the stem. Now, both of those are going to be possible options, but I think what we're going to do, because this bike is really used on Lake District terrain, and that longer, slacker head angle really does help around here, because we don't tend to go through little corners. Our cross country isn't really nipping through trees and over roots and sort of thing. Our cross country is much more boulder strewn, mostly in a straight line. When they built the paths over the fells here, nearly everything goes in a straight line or does a complete switchback. So we don't have that little nippy handling requirement. What we do have is a requirement for the front wheel to track over big boulders. So what we're going to do is fit that external cup and the extra travel of the fork as well and go even slacker. It's probably only going to make it 1 degree difference, so it might go to 71. I'll show you at the end when we can get a clinometer on there and see how it all works out. Right. Let's get started. Now, to make this work with the Chris King standards, because Chris King don't allow you to pick and mix in quite the same way that Hope do, you have to buy 2 headsets to make this work. So here we have EC49. EC stands for external on the SHIS system. I think it stands for Standardized Headset Identification System. So this is what's known as an EC49. That's going to go on the bottom there. And on the top, we need an ZS. So 0 stack 44, which is going to go in here, which means we've got access to requirements. We have a ZS 49 and we have a EC 44 surplus to requirements. If anybody wants these, let us know, we'll do your deal. You also get a fantastic quality crown race. In fact, the whole Chris King system is just quality personified. Like, it's not light, don't get me wrong, but these headsets, these become heirlooms. People just switch these between bikes for decades and decades. If it wasn't for the industry constantly changing standards, these would just last forever. So the bearings are all made in-house, real precision made stuff. The actual top cap itself has a little rubber O-ring and a compression ring here, which is so finely made. The precision here is really, really fine. And the idea is that as you install this and tighten it down, it compresses this O-ring here and creates a waterproof seal. So that's what makes these really last as long as they do. Right, enough waffling, let's get this installed. So we've got just the lightest smear of grease. You really don't want loads and loads of grease in here. It's meant to be a friction fit, remember, and that grease is really a little bit of corrosion resistance, but mostly just to aid the fitment. We're just doing a dry fit for now, just so we know where we're going to cut the steerer down. And until we're 100% confident with the geometry we just talked about, we're going to go for 1 centimetre above as well. Now, when you use this, hold the fork upside down, because what you don't want is any metal chippings or filings going down here to your sensitive suspension area. With this all set up like this, one, doesn't it look amazing with all the little flashes of orange? Absolutely stunning. But I've got an inclometer here. Now I can't measure it here at the head tube because it's tapered. So I'm just going to come down to here, and we're reading that at about 68.7, 68.8, something like that. Now the actual manual specifies this at 70.5. So it's not a massive change, but it's just enough to improve the angle of attack of that wheel. And I think this rider will actually appreciate that a bit more. So from here, we've got a few things to do. We're going to give the dropper a quick service, and we have a Chris King bottom bracket to put in there as well, and make that front chainring compatible. Right, for chainrings, we needed to temper our budget ever so slightly, and we're still undecided as to what we're going to go for. So we still have these perfectly serviceable Shimano XT ones, great set of cranks, but they are not compatible with 12 speed. So in case you didn't know, you can actually change this. Shimano actually do an adaptation kit. It's part of the non-series, so it's not XT or SLX or anything. It is part number FC MT610, and it's the slightly asymmetric 4-bolt structure, which means that we can now make this work with the 12-speed setup. So quick chainring swap. These aren't even expensive, they're like 20 something quid, which meant that we had more of a budget to upgrade what really mattered, which was like the XTR rear derailleur and the XTR shifters, which would make more difference than switching this out. Next things with Chris King bottom brackets, what you do is you buy the bottom bracket and then you have to buy a fit kit depending on what you're fitting it to. So this is the fit kit number 4 for 24 millimeters. And the nice thing is it also comes with a whole bunch of spacers. So if you've got boost or non-boost, you don't have to worry about that too much. You can just get the fit kit sorted. We go and look at that for a fit. Absolutely beautiful. Here it is, we're all done, and we're here with its new owner, proud new owner.
Yes,
Angus, congratulations on a cracking new bike.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.
At the start of this video, we talk people through this history. This is about 6-7 years old now.
Yeah, about that.
Every single
from
minute
you
of that.
originally.
It was.
From you originally. It's come back a few times for tweaks and repairs and whatnot.
We had looked through about once a year. We have it back in for a full service, so we're really familiar with this bike, and you've kept it in great condition. So when it came to upgrade, it was a really logical choice. So this is the dream upgrade.
Yeah, absolute dream upgrade. I think I came to you first of all and said, right, let's tweak the saddle. I could do with that going up a bit. Oh yeah, now let's look at the bottom bracket, and then a series of what else could we do kind of crept in, and then an orange theme crept in, and it didn't stop there.
The manga orange thing was a dream, wasn't it?
An absolute specific. I think I'd just seen it on the website and thought, actually, yeah, what would go really well? And your insert was, no, don't do the blue SIDS, do Fox 34 and the orange.
So yeah,
hey presto, yeah, right.
You had to have orange Fox factories on there.
It worked.
So you'll see in the final video how hard it was to get all the Matt Mango compatible with everything on this frame. And massive shout out to our friends at Saddleback.
Thank you very much.
It will blow your mind. Just think, oh yeah, I just want some Matt Mango stuff. How hard that could be. So just to talk you through this. So we've got the Chris King road and gravel hub on the back. It's still well sealed for mountain biking. It's got the micro spline cassette, so taken off that free hub, put a micro spline on there. So we're now at the 12 speed with your favourite XTR manual, keeping it old school.
Thank you, yeah, want a cable on that.
That's working really well. And obviously the new XTR shifter as well, so a nice sort of 12 speed upgrade. So to keep with the Matt Mango on the bottom bracket, we've got the BSA bottom brackets with fit kit number 4, and you had boost crankset on there, so we've had to put the right amount of spacers in there to keep the chain line superb. Now, the headset was a bit of an interesting situation because we had this external headset here, so we could have gone internal with this, but what we decided to do, because we'd ride in the Lake District, was keep it external and keep the head angle slightly slacker. So we're now running 68-degree head angle, where it's originally designed for a 70 degree, and I think that's going to handle a whole lot
superb.
better.
Oh, fantastic.
It's I think knowing the way that you ride, that's going to work for you. Front forks are now the Fox Factory 34s, and I know you originally asked for the 32s.
Yes, thought let's go skinnier, and you went, no, trust me, go broader, because it's an upgrade from the SIDS.
I'm so interested to see what you think, but I think the extra stiffness in this is worth the very, very minuscule weight savings on that. They are really like when you get your hand.
Well, it's minute, isn't it? It's absolutely minute.
Hold a line so much better, especially amongst all that real rocky, chossy stuff that we've got here. And yeah, unfortunately, we've had to compromise ever so slightly with the Matt Mango. We've had to got a 6-bolt on the front. So if you're really, really OCD, and I probably shouldn't have pointed it out to you, we've got a 6-bolt on the front and a centre lock on the back. It's the only way we could make that work.
No, that's superb. I have no complaints there at all. Excellent. It's an absolute dream for it. I remember first coming to you for this, and you said, no, great, gave me the history of the frame and where it's come from, and in your words, it was like the best adventure bike and it has absolutely fitted that bill up until now, and then hopefully it's take it a bit, lean it up a little bit more, and make it more of a race weapon as well. So keen to see what it can do.
Yeah, look forward to it. Thanks so much, Angus.
No, thank you very much indeed. Pleasure.
Cheers. If you guys like this sort of content, please get down in the comments, let us know what would you do differently. Yeah, get down there, let us know, and look forward to seeing you on the next one.